from Princeton. I am in a rush. I will take no questions today, but I do have prepared remarks to share with you all today. It gives me great pleasure to again address you, the collective. As you know, my absence from the program was unplanned. Much has changed since we last met. I will not get into specifics here today, but I promise you that the senior staff will issue full and complete details on the events that have transpired since my abrupt and unannounced departure and my subsequent return to our organization. Some of those who were in positions of authority are no more. Others have returned with me, and you will learn much more in the coming days. These have been trying times for our organization and our staff, and our work has been affected. But make no mistake, our efforts have resumed and order has been restored. Our research tells us that many of you have been thrown into situations where your loyalties have been questioned. That was unfortunate. Let me assure you that our most recent comprehensive reevaluation of your personal and individual operative status is now complete. I can tell you that we have much work ahead, and your collective efforts are more important than ever before. More than that, I cannot share at this time. However, the challenge ahead will offer each and every one of you the opportunity to excel, to achieve, and to qualify for higher status within the collective, and thus be privy to information that would remain available to those of lesser rank. Thank you, and good afternoon.
Greetings. We will not be taking questions today, but we do have some announcements. As Dr. Thornscale points out, much has transpired since the last formal briefing. Events of last year, recent years, serve to confirm his research, as well as the theories upon which Legendary Truth, the collective, was founded. More on this in the near future. Legendary Truth, the collective, has undergone several reorganizations and internal re-evaluations. The details of these are still being reviewed as we look to you, the collective, to assist in completing this very important research. New challenges are emerging as we speak, and your investigative prowess will be tested like never before. In the coming weeks and months, we are opening improved methods and lines of communication which include, but are not limited to, increased traffic on our social media outlets, resurrection of our official website, calm down, and access to certain products that will assist in the identification of your fellow operatives. Senior staff has completed an audit of all existing collective operatives, and recruitment for new members will resume shortly. This audit has resulted in some unexpected results. In particular, senior staff has been impressed by the encryption analysis skills of one Tyler Brannon. I'm going to need you to calm down, young lady. Brannon, that's B-R-A-N-A-N. As I stated, we will not be taking questions here today. However, as some of you know, we are monitoring the internet as always. And we will address specific questions posted on our official social media site soon. But whatever you do, no matter what the cost, never, ever
Universal Studios Florida has taken Hunt 2014 to a new level by introducing alternate reality gaming for fans. Today, they take us on an in-depth examination of this exciting interactive experience. Presented by TJ Manarino and the creative team from Universal Halloween Horror Nights.
Okay, hey everybody, how you doing today? First thing I'm going to say is I'm going to go ahead and bring up the group, but I want to answer a few questions, which is, you probably thought, what did we just witness? Well, this in a short order is actually a part of interactive storytelling. This is a scene that we played out for some of our audience who's actually familiar with Legendary Truth. But some of you who might not be familiar with it, don't worry. We'll actually explain over this next few minutes a little bit about how this act works, how we do it, why we do it, and the results that we've gotten from it. So, but first, let me bring out some of the creative minds behind these interactive experiences. Why don't you guys come on up? Everybody, yes, come on, thank you. And move your chairs up. So as they were making the stage, this actually is a great group of people. I'm stagehand. And Ben too. So that's great. We got everybody here? Yes, looks like it. So for today, like I said, before I get started though, I do want to say thank you for the wonderful team that's put this attraction on today. Ben Armstrong, who's been the wonderful facilitator for us. So thank you, Ben. Jim, who's here, I don't know where she is, but a bunch of other people have been wonderful to actually play along with us a little bit today. So for myself, let me introduce me. I'm TJ Manarino, the director for the design studio for entertainment. We do all of the live attraction shows and experiences that you come at Universal Orlando's parks. The team behind me actually have great discipline, experience, and actually wonderful work that they've done. I'll let them introduce themselves, starting over here on my right with Rick Spencer.
I'm Rick Spencer, and I'm the creative manager in the art and design group. And I think you know, those of you who have worked with us before know that we are the architects behind some of the games that you've been playing, and some of the games you're about to play again.
I'm Brad Riddy. I'm one of the managers in the technical entertainment department. We work hard to make sure we can get everything developed and working for you guys.
Hi, I'm Ray Kime. It was buzzing around. I'm the graphics and media designer for our interactive initiative. Just hold it closer.
That's all I have to say.
My name is Mike Aiello. I'm assistant director. I am assistant director of creative development for Universal Orlando, and I'm a fan. I'm wondering what the heck's going on here.
My name's Brian Beauregard. I'm the creative director for merchandise development for Universal Studios, and I'm kind of with Mike. I don't know really what's going on here, but I'm here. You'll find out later.
Okay. So, actually, for some of you who don't know, we're with Halloween Horror Nights, basically one of the largest experiences in the nation of haunted attractions. We do haunted houses. We stand here. Maybe this is the best place. Is this good for you? I think. So, we do haunted houses. We do scare zones. We do live shows. But today we wanted to focus on what we call interactive storytelling. It's experiences that take you actually into different worlds, different creatures, environments, different time periods. Every year we come up with Halloween, we have to come up with a whole new slate of characters and show components. Part of that is actually educating the audience on what is going to be part of this year. We realized a bunch of years ago is that our success on making the experience better was letting our audience interact with these characters much more and longer by ever coming to the event itself. Back in 2002, this thing called the website, or interactive, was the first time we actually said, why don't we give it an opportunity for our audience to actually learn about what we're going to be giving to them in October, months earlier. We started a simple website like this, about a month prior to sell tickets, but from the entertainment side, we decided, you know what, if we can tell our story earlier, this would be much better for our audience and it'd be more successful from entertainment. Because the more you learn about the characters you come in contact with, the more times you come in contact with the environments, the better your experience is going to be. Well, in about 2004, a little thing also called Flash became very exciting. We as web designers, interactive storytellers said, you know what? How can we bring the experience a little bit better to our audience? So we decided to come up with a way to tell the story actually 3 months prior. We started our experiences back in the middle of like June or July. What you saw was a little bit of a mystery. And this is something that we've also engaged in, is that we felt that by the times of September, most people are coming to a website or reaching out to find out about your event, really to find out the bare bones, the facts. What's going to be there, how much it's going to cost, what are your times. But if somebody wants to come experience a little bit about the story a few months earlier, they don't want to be told all this right off the top. They want to be kind of figured out. They want to kind of go through a little bit of a mystery. They want to kind of discover. So we actually set up a mystery back in 2004 to kind of learn from that. We stuck a bunch of boxes in kind of a nondescript room, and every week you came back and opened a box. In a box was an elements of objects or items that had some connection, but it was up to you to make the connections. We gave this to the audience. It was your task, your job, to kind of figure out how these things all come together and what they mean. So in some aspects, you became part of our story. You now became an investigative, person learning about the history or the mystery or what should I be afraid of. In this particular box that's behind me, it was objects and items related to a college student who had gone to a castle for some type of sorority prank. And while she was there, she left some messages on a phone. The phone over in the corner over here, which you were able to kind of interact with. Hopefully you can hear the stuff.
Hey, it's me. I just wanted to let you know I made it up here, and the place is as creepy as everyone said it would be. In fact, I'm surprised my son gets a signal this far. Anyway, this sort of thing doesn't bother me. I can't say the same thing with a cab driver. He split as soon as you drop me off. I guess the Tao sisters will be here soon to welcome me for the night. Yeah, bye for now. Hey, it's me again. Are you there? Pick up if you're there. Look, I've been waiting up here for a couple hours and no one's shown up. This is starting to piss me off. It's cold and it's foggy and totally unpleasant. Yeah, I'm wandering around the base of some rundown castle. Call me back when you get this message, alright? I think one of the doors in the garden's back wall is open. I'm gonna go in if no one shows up here soon. Call me myself as soon as you get this, okay? Pick up the damn phone! Something is up here. Something is following me. I got inside the castle, but I can't find my way out, and something is following me. Oh my God. What was that? Something just went over my head. I don't know if I could see it. I felt it. Oh my God. Oh my God, no. Keep on.
And hopefully you heard some of that. But what it was, just to recap, is we actually took you into for that split moment, you were actually with her at this strange castle location where she was kind of wandering around in the dark and actually calling back to some of her friends to say, okay, what are you guys doing? Why you left me up there? But unbeknownst to her, she was being stalked by an angry horde of vampires who lived in the castle. And the last message that she gave you was that terror and that horror in her voice and her recollection of what was about to happen to her. Our same vision was what you would experience when you walked into our castle when you came to Halloween Horror Nights in October. This was very, very successful. The campaign also included a bunch of other boxes that took you other locations. This is back in 2004, remember. So at that point, the interactive experiences online were somewhat limited. So we were really excited to actually get nominated for what's called a Webby Award. A Webby Award is much like online, like the Academy Award. So we were excited to hear that this interactive storytelling was not only enjoyed by our audience, but also recognized by the industry. After that, we decided to take a step farther. We knew that online websites was a great way to engage with people. But at the same time, we said, you know what? That is only one part of the way we want to interact. I would say the haunted industry already kind of is a big leader in this place. When you walk into a haunted house, you are already interacting with stories, characters, and environments. How can we as storytellers do that before you get to the event? Part of this was some what we called alternate reality gaming. This was a website we designed in 2005. We created a world called Terra Coentus, and in that world, you had to kind of explore these different types of facets of a story that we had designed months prior. Well, about midway through the campaign, we added one of these things as a screenshot from the website, and in the background was a calendar. Most people looked at the calendar and said, oh, okay, it's got dates on it. But some of our audience, which is right here, anybody else? Oh, back there too. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see Brandon. Okay, good. Over here. So we got a lot of them. So that's great. As on the calendar, we put specific dates, and most of you will tell you this, and some of you echoed it last night online too. Which is everything we do is for a specific reason. We don't do anything for luck. We don't do anything by, oh, no. We put dates on this calendar to tell our audience that something special was going to happen. You just had to figure out what that was, but at least we gave you the date that it was going to happen. Later on in the event, this website expanded, got deeper, had more pages to interact with, and we put a symbol up that had the same numbers on the symbol as we had on the calendar. Again, to make those connections and start taking you down the rabbit hole a little bit farther to figure out what are they trying to tell me, what is going to happen. Well, what we did is on those specific nights, on those days of the event, we gave you a message. This would show up on the website basically on midnight of that day. You had to come to the website, you actually had to decipher the clue on the bottom of this small little interactive thing that was scripted, and it basically told you to go to a place in the park, a GPS location. It told you a time, be here between 15 minutes, and it gave you a password, something you had to say. That's all we told you to do. We didn't tell anybody what you would get. We didn't tell you what would happen. We just said, be at this place, at this time, and say this word to whoever, and something will happen. And surprisingly, people showed up. And they showed up quite a bit. Again, this was not marketed, this was not told to anybody. To find this actual piece, you had to kind of dive into about 4 to 5 levels of a website, multiple pages down, and kind of hunt it out and then decipher the piece. Some of the great stories that we got that year is we had about 30 to 40 people playing that year. When we ended, about 65 people came to the finale. But I remember a story that I got called one time from our operations team. Somebody went to our guest services, which is a booth area in the front of the park, and they actually yelled at the guest services people saying, I need to have a computer. They said, why do you need a computer? Because I have to decipher the clue. The operations people didn't know we were playing this game at all. I get a phone call going, hey, are you guys playing a game in the park? I'm like, we might be. I said, why? They said, because a guest is here, and I thought, score, good. To get that much recognition and that much demand to play the game. The game ended as a treat. For everybody who played, they had to decipher a 3-part clue. Most of the clues prior to that was a 1-part clue. You solve the clue, you show up, you get something. Sometimes we interacted with characters, sometimes you got maybe a small trinket, like a string of beads. But the finale was that we gave you 3 clues. You had to come 3 consecutive nights, put the 3 clues together to find out basically the reward. And the reward was to come to a special meet and greet with some of the design team that's here and learn a little bit about the game itself. Again, highly successful. It gave us great ambition to say, you know what, this style of storytelling is something that we should continue to do more and actually expand on it. That took us for the next 2 years. In 2007, we actually started realizing is that not only does the gameplay works in the park, but also works online. We created what we called carnival games in 2007. We got a chance to play games and see if you could actually kind of figure out the riddles, open some of the hidden content, and actually then go and solve some of the puzzles. This again was also successful. And then we came to what you just witnessed, which was Legendary Truth in 2008. This was a case called the Agana case. I'll skip through some of this for a minute of time. But in that point, we're going to tell you a story of a thing called Bloody Mary. Well, Bloody Mary, everybody has a different version of who Bloody Mary is. how she actually affects you. But for us at Universal Studios, we said we wanted to create a new story for Bloody Mary. In our story, it was a twisted doctor that actually Mike Aiello created.
Yeah. Okay, TJ, I'll talk. The challenge was, there's no alcohol in this, I promise. All right, that's just Coke. The challenge was, take the Legend of Bloody Mary that everybody knows, and how do you twist it, how do you change it? Basically, I kind of sat in a room and beat my head against the wall trying to figure out how do you change something that everyone knows, how do you J.J. Abrams it? Because that's what he's doing now. But the idea was to create this doctor, and she is basically a psychiatrist dealing with fears, and how does she cure you of your fear? Well, she's going to subject you to it as much as possible. That way, the more you experience it, the less you'll be afraid of it. But what was revealed, what you didn't know when you started the story, was that, her greatest fear was death. And so she also felt she had to subject herself to that fear by putting these patients through their fears, eventually killing them, trying to cure her own. And then the idea of working the mirror into it. Everything was done in front of a two-way mirror. She only spoke to these people in front of a two-way mirror. And for the patients, whenever they wanted their fear to end, whenever they wanted the process to end, they had to say her name 3 times. And she would end the process. That patient believed it would just be over and they could walk out the door. But no. By ending, that's the ultimate end. She would kill them off. Therefore, trying to rid herself of her own fear. So it was like 10 pages that I just kind of summed up in 15 seconds, but that was really layered story. But that's the beautiful thing about the website. We for all of our original content, mazes and street programs that we do, there are layered stories that we create that the average guest probably will never know. But that became the website. Yes, you are not average guests. No. You are the ultimate guests because you want those layers, you want those things. So the website and the website that TJ and Rick have developed over the years has provided a pathway for us who are creating the mazes and the scare zones and the characters and the icons to be able to tell those layered stories through whatever means. And the brilliance of TJ and Rick creating these games to allow those stories to be told is an incredible thing, and something that we don't take for granted because it still allows us to be able to tell those stories. It doesn't have to be just a byline. The house is this, which for many people that come to the event every year, it is. Gothic is a castle that has gargoyles in it, But there was a whole layered story as to why, The website gives us the opportunity to tell some of those stories, and it's something we want to do in the future and keep doing.
So to Mike's story about this wonderful character called Bloody Mary, we sat around and said, okay, how do we get our audience to interact with that? How do they actually now become a part of this twisted person who starts as a very clinical, formal doctor and transforms into a twisted being who's out killing people? Well, we said, let's start you back in a story and actually step with her, live beside her, and learn what she's actually doing over about an 8-week process. We created the stories through her journal which you actually interacted online with. I'm going to take this up for a second and give this to you. Ray back here is the wonderful graphic designer who created most of all the visuals you'll see up there. Now, the fun part about this is we created this book after the fact. We didn't create the book first and then took pictures of it and stuck it online. We actually did this all digitally, and then we actually created the prop afterwards as a display. But, oh look, it's so close. It's very old. It's very old, as I said. But along the process, each story, or basically each appointment was actually a haunted house. So if you follow along with us, you had 8 appointments, 8 basically patients that Dr. Agana was seeing. These 8 patients had stories that told you a little bit about what the haunted house is going to be, what characters you might come in contact with, and what fears or phobias you might have to interact with as part of our haunted house. It was all illustrated, it was all animated in a lot of ways, and it had a lot of radio play, basically audio scenarios. Wonderful illustrations too, that actually, if you paid attention, back to what we said earlier, everything we do is for a reason. You actually, again, got very much entrenched in this story. You got very much involved in what was happening. And then you also got very much involved with even the simple aspects of a doodling of a mad woman. And her doodles actually told you stories. Some of the things that we never told you from some of the years of past. The doodles over here on the right side of a kind of a twisted skeleton of the areas of like American Gothic was actually a scare zone that was coming 3 months later. And if you didn't know that, at this time it was like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? And when you see the results of it later, you start to kind of go, boy, that made sense 3 months prior. Yes, it did. At the same time, we also created a character by the name of Boris Schuster. Anybody? Okay. Boris Schuster was basically, in this story of that year, was an investigator. Basically kind of an old gumshoe from the 1950s, who actually had fallen into this kind of strange, twisted thing going on with Bloody Mary. And he was our eyes, basically, a way to tell our story from a third-person perspective. That was created by this man over here also, Rick Spencer. Again, fun stuff. What we did was that you played online. If you played online, you could also register for what we called website updates, email. Again, back in 2008, email was somewhat still kind of fresh and new. Most people didn't carry it with them every day like they do. So emails were something, a way for us to communicate to you a little bit differently. On websites and basically web content, you searched it out. But on emails, we searched you out. So what we did is periodically through the run, you got these strange messages from this notepad, from this investigator, this paranormal investigator, trying to figure out what is going on with this person, and the people are dying, they're not showing back up. And as you followed through his storylines, you got more and more stuff. You got a telegram he sent to you. You actually even had a place in the park where he lived. And if you went there in the park at Universal Studios, you would find this sign that has a number on it. If you called that number, you got a recorded message that was in story and gave you another piece of this mystery. We had, the first day we put the thing in the window, again, we didn't tell anybody, again, the least time I told operations. The second time we did this, I think within the first hour, we had over 250 phone calls to that number. To the point where Universal said, you gotta stop that, you're gonna take a whole phone system down. We're like, sorry. And there's a theme here, I'll tell you this later. But what happened is you continued on this strange mystery following the guy of Boris Schuster, the strange things of Bloody Mary herself. The last day, we worked out a whole scenario with our our marketing group and our PR team to say, how do we actually, what we call, have Bloody Mary come to life? You saw the transformation over 3 months and how she came from this kind of, clinical doctor into this kind of twisted being. But on the night before we opened the main website, we wanted our audience to come with us, and we did. We started about 4 hours earlier in the night. We had planned to actually reveal our website at midnight. The day that our main website would go out, the day that we would put our billboards up, and any type of print ad or commercials would become basically to the general public. But we felt our audience, again mostly here, we said let's give them a fun treat and let's take that storytelling a little bit farther. So we started about 4 hours prior. At about 8 o'clock, we started having web updates in real time. So at 8 o'clock, we got an update. We had chatter going back and forth on the website. We actually at that night sat in a room with about most of us at one of the big executive boardrooms. We had 4 or 5 video screens up. We were monitoring about 4 or 5 different chat rooms, blog sites, any other type, any other place that was talking about Halloween Horror Nights. We were there watching what people were saying, and we were reacting to what they were saying, and we were then posting online this experience. At about 8 o'clock, we gave you a video. we actually said, oh, we're at the outside, so we kind of took you through this strange group called Legendary Troop, who is about ready to go into this building, and these were the images that they were sending via a web, or basically a smartphone. Now, the strange thing that happened is that we got a note, and about an hour before we started this whole experience from our PR team, somebody in the market, who was actually one of our local newscaster, was a big Halloween Horror Nights fan. And PR said, if we revealed Bloody Mary at 11 o'clock, which our intent was, he would probably post it live and kill our whole story, which is we wanted to have it happen at midnight. So the PR team said we cannot go live with Bloody Mary at 11:05, which was our intent. We had to hold it till 11:35. Well, we sat around, well, how do we do that? All the creative, everything's been designed, everything's programmed. How do we hold something for 30 minutes? And we kind of scratched our head, and me and Rick looked at each other. And we said, well, cell phones lose signal all the time. So for 30 minutes, we put our audience in a blackout. They did not see, they did not, and in 30 minutes, I went from everybody loved this great experience, this team was wonderful, to they hated us, they thought we were the worst. What the hell were they doing? They don't know what's going on. And then at about 11:35, they loved us again. And at 11:35, we posted this, which is basically an official alert from Legendary Truth Gang of the existence of this supernatural being called Bloody Mary. Now, if you look over here to the right of the screen, that image was 6 images that you saw over the 6 weeks put all together at one point, and it basically revealed Bloody Mary to you. Now, if you were smart enough and started doing that with us and took every piece and yourself photoshopped it together, you would have got this image before we released it. But it was fun for people to get that kind of an aha moment after it all happened, to see, boy, this is what you've been following. This is what's been kind of coming to light. This is the horror that's going to actually show itself in the month of October, but this is what you saw a month prior to that. Very successful, but we didn't stop there. We realized that we had such a great audience that was playing along with us, that was really involved with the story, and at the same time had become critical to solving some of these early mysteries. We decided to have what we call in-park operations. We actually set up an office in the park where you came, and most of you did, and signed up to be what we call collective members. Some of the stuff that you saw at the beginning was stuff we actually experienced back in 2008. We actually opened a website dedicated to the investigative of these 5 unique areas, from myths, tales, urban legends, nightmares, and it was your job as audience, or basically investigative members, to go search out all these strange things that everybody has mysteries about and try to solve them with the assistance of this organization called Legendary Troop. This, back in 2008, was our senior staff. Anybody look familiar? Calvin Thorncastle, who showed up here just a moment ago, was with us back in also 2008. He was in charge of the organization, a scientific organization built and basically operated out of Princeton University. Mysterious by nature, but at the same time, highly funded, very organized, and very scientific. Oh, got a G5? Oh, okay. Yes, they have a black jet. Some of you guys know about that too. This is some of the behind the scenes of that. It seems sometimes very organized, but a lot of it is the strategic planning months in advance of how everything connects, how every character you come in contact with, every small clue that we give you, every little piece of image that we show you is all connected through stories, through components of how things relate to different elements, so it's not just a single connection, it can have multiple connections. And your investigative reporting can connect those things different ways. Sometimes it's done for 2 reasons. It's to give you definitely depth of story, an unbelievable amount of content, but it also takes you on multiple different paths that until we give you some of those critical pieces, you can't connect the dots until we're able to give you them. These are some of the interactive park stuff, where we actually go in the park and solve a mystery, go to a location, meet a performer, ask them some questions. It took the story unbelievably to a whole different level. Our audience was not only engaged with the story, but they were now part of the story. In the past, when you come to a Halloween event, most of the time when you walk to a haunted house, you're still somewhat of a voyeur. You're watching something happen around you. You interact with it by the simple fact of being scared by it. But this was a whole different way of interacting with our audience. they being nailed were part of the story. And we as designers knew that, and we changed the story by your guys' interactions. And that meant anything you guys did could drive the story in different directions. And that was something that we found was very successful. Some other components to that. Some of the games you played, we actually had names in the windows in the park. Our audience had to go out and take photographs of these windows because they had names that are specific. Part of the game was to find out, kind of like a twisted crossword puzzle, what some of those names and why they were connected. You actually, we provided you this. We gave you the letters, but now that you realize that how these names are all came together, it gave you a clue to basically a password to unlock a website. This was the final night. From back in 2005, about 3 years prior, we had about 55 people playing. This night, we had about 300 people playing with us. And this was the group, and most of them are here. So that tells you, from 2008 to now, we still have a great audience that's still playing with us. But we didn't stop there. Like I said, this was, again, very successful for us. We realized two things that happened in 2005 and 2008. It became very social. In 2005, when you played the mystery back then, it was very singular. You did it by yourself. In 2008, it was all about, you did it as a group. You guys worked together. Any problem we gave you, you guys could solve, and most of the time faster than we thought you guys could solve it. Made us work more. Thank you very much. Rick knows. But we realized that that was also the success of the program. About these types of interactive experiences are not so much as they are mysterious, but they are social. You actually search out your friends. You search out your counterparts. You search out experts. We've had people who actually call to people in different universities in Scotland somewhere to discover certain things. So it's amazing to the levels that you guys go to find out the clues and the mysteries that we do, but we realize it's social. So you add that to the social media, and that starts to get us to where we actually are today. And then 2008, we were very successful in that we got about 3,000 people playing. We had multiple websites that covered it. You'll see some of the old ones. One you guys all know. And what we kind of laughed about and had a great story was that most of the event itself had only about, 19,000. We had 89,000 for the 11 Turn Hoof website, so a lot more conversation. We had stuff people captured websites. Some of you guys probably have done some of this stuff. We'll give you guys all photo credits afterwards. And even we had a boat ride with somebody. But again, this was all captured by our audience. They posted it. They actually wanted to talk to other people about it. So again, it actually grew bigger than we actually had planned, and at the same time, it became that social component. We had people playing from all areas of the country too. We knew that the website was something that could reach anybody, but at the same time, we also realized that coming to the event was not only the experience, but if you can only come one night, how can we continue your experience for Halloween Horror Nights? And this was doing that. We had people playing in New York, Chicago, Baltimore, Maryland, Boonfall. So again, very successful. And then it took us to last year. I'm doing good on time. Last year, we took this storytelling to a whole new level. We realized that most of you guys play, and you guys play as crazy as we want you to play, but at the same time, we'd have a hard time stopping you get around some of our barriers because we don't want you to find stuff earlier than you guys want to. So part of that last year was we actually took an experience that we did from 2011. 2011, we played online games with a character we called Lady Luck. Well, within the game scenarios, it was all luck-based. You could not beat the game, you had to play against luck. And as much as you guys might decompile and find out the clues and how you play the game, you still couldn't beat it. You had to play it and get the results from it. So from that we realized is that, moving forward, how do we give all of you guys the credit for the work that you've done as opposed to somebody else stealing it from you, going, wait a second, I did that, but how'd you find out about it? Because you guys also love to post. You guys are the biggest braggers, and I love every one of you. If I did this first, I'm going to tell everybody about it. Well, that is also an integral piece about interactive storytelling. It's about providing those prizes, those things that you can solve for, and then tell everybody about it. But then us as designers go, how do we solve for you telling everybody about it, but also everybody else still has to take those same steps to do it? Well, that was designed in this program, which is called Horror Unearthed. It is the story of last year's event. Last year's event, our Scare Zone, basically our street experience, had 6 unique characters. They had really no connections when we started, but we sat down and said, let's have some fun. Let's take this new type of storytelling and tell the story that for many, many years, from the beginnings of time, there was these unique characters that have become part of the world. They are the 8 unique legions of horror. Horror itself encompasses multiple different facets, from characters to supernatural to poltergeist. But if you could break them down into 8 unique, well, not 8, but actually 6 unique categories, you could actually investigate each of those things separately. And that's what we did. When you started, we gave you, the audience, to choose which area of horror best represented your personality. This was kind of our twisted version of a horoscope, if you want to call it that. If you were fun and had lots of fun and you were kind of a crazy partier and liked to wear disguises, you were a character called the Morphans over here. I think we have some of them here. And we actually have some up on the panel too. Morphin. Stringoid. Stringoid was our vision of somebody who was driven by passion, who was actually very creative, but at the same time very emotional, high-strung. That was the Stringoid clan. Actually, Stringoid actually was up there too. We had about 7,000 people playing, and our numbers kind of interesting skewed in certain areas. The top 3 was Stringoid, Morphin, and Bacanoid. Bacanoid over here on the side. And what we found is that everybody actually chose their characters for different reasons. Most people chose them, they took the time to read the descriptions. Bacanoids were basically puzzle solvers, highly intelligent, like to actually engage in kind of riddles. But what we also found was that there were people that would show up, we had a place in the park, and they would say, which one you're choosing? I went Bacanoid. We said, why? I like purple dragons. We're like, a little bit diabetic. Okay, purple dragons work. Okay, she was 12. Don't worry about that. So I gave her, I said, okay, you have to pass. But yes, so what we did is we gave everybody the opportunity to choose. But the point that was probably the most critical piece of this gameplay design was all about competition. What we had learned from the previous year, we had one leaderboard when you played games last year. Everybody strived to be the top of the leaderboard. Well, this year, we decided to get online games again. You actually came across 6 games. The 6 games were actually all themed to your various legion of horror. So if you were a vampire, which was Stringoids, you played a vampire game. The game online was that, of course, since you're a vampire, you had to get to your coffin before the sun got out. And if you made it, you got points for doing this. Now, if you had a fellow vampire in your coffin, that would be the wrong case, you had to find an empty coffin. If you did that, you got points. And what we did is we actually had 6 leaderboards. This is an old screen grab, okay, it's changed multiple times. Okay. But as you can see, a lot of the interactive storytelling was very focused on competition. Not only were you competing against yourself and other fellow people playing for Halloween Horror Nights, you're competing against other legions. The 6 different legions were set up on this master leaderboard. You had to see how you were doing. Now, the other thing, too, that was fun about this interaction was that the way that we scored the points was cumulative. So if you had 6 people in your legion and somebody else had 12, they're already ahead of you because their points already doubled your points. So you had to go out and actually recruit other people to play the game so your points or your team or your legion could actually be better than them. Even though you still had to compete within your own legion. Within your legion, you had a leaderboard itself. So you could be the top of your legion. And lots of people did spend many hours, which were very surprising to us, who would stay on the boards and get on back over there too, and play multiple hours. Now again, this was all done at the same time that you could do in-park scenarios. But you got points for all this stuff. But we also, and I'm going to give a big shout out to Ricky over here, because these are your photos. Inside the Magic was one of the groups, and I saw Eric over here with Behind the Thrills. These guys cover. We also got Design the Fear over here with Charles. We have lots of great websites that cover this and did a wonderful job of actually talking about the experience as it went, actually engaging other new players. We were so busy basically producing this last year, we didn't have time taking pictures, so I had to borrow some here. Sorry. But at the same time, you could play online. You could compete for points and you actually go against Legion to Legion. You can come to the park. And this was, again, something that we realized is that there's some new technology out there. That when you guys played the games back in 2008, one person would lead, 20 people would follow, and it became kind of just one guy or 4 people really actually solving all the puzzles. We said, no. We want you guys really to invest time into this. So we created a game that actually worked with RFID technology. This was the booth that we set up in the park, and we actually then mirrored the different 6 legions. And when you came here, you were able to pick up a card. When you got this card, some of you still have it, right? Yeah, it's very nice. I don't have to bring displays; they have them. It's what happened is that card locked to your profile. So if you were playing online, it's in my pocket back here. If you got the card, it basically is RFID. RFID technology works very simply in that it's a radio frequency. Each card has a unique ID to it. So that card can be locked to you. So basically, your card is you. So when you come to the event now, we had certain scenarios that you had to do in the park. Go to haunted houses, actually go through a haunted house, hit one of these readers, and that would identify that you went through a haunted house and you got a certain number of points. Well, the game didn't stop there. We had multiple things that you could do. Just signing up got you a badge. Picking your Legion got you a badge. Registering your card, basically, this gave us also ways to identify. We knew who you were by Legion, so we could actually point out Legions in the gameplay. So that was another way that was also great for us as storytellers. We could tell a story just to your Legion, and we did some of that. We could also find out who was playing at home and who was playing in the park. Because if you registered a card, it let us know that you were actually a park player also. So we could actually do stuff at home and in the park, which also we did later in the game. Going to a haunted house. That was a big thing for us. If you go to a haunted house, you put credits on the board. If you went to a house 5 times, you can get credits on the board. 10 times. So keep going, keep shaking. All the way back there 10 times. You go do 10 times. Also, we had, in our event, on multiple nights, it's hard to get through 2 houses. We had 7 houses last year. So we gave you credit if you can get through 7 houses in one night. And you got points for that. Of course, most of the points also ramped up for the harder the difficulty of these different tasks. On a profile page, so you could actually brag to everybody you wanted to. We put your profile up, everybody could have access to, and it showed everybody what you did. This again was a unique thing that I want to call out, because in the past, you were always kind of grouped together with everybody else, and it was more or less everybody doing the same thing at the same time, but it was nothing that was really focused and personal to you. And this story was all about making it personal to you, and you've been able to tell everybody else about how you did that. We even did some different experiences. We did things where it said, okay, before we just going to a haunted house. You did it when you wanted, at whatever day. Certain days we gave you a few more points, being a Friday and a Saturday, because it's hard to get to a haunted house in our event on a Friday and Saturday. But we said, why don't we do this? Let's see if we can get you guys to go haunted houses in our order, not in your order. And we did. We said if you went through what we call the order of the 4, you had to go to these 4 haunted houses in a certain area. Now our park is kind of large if you've been to it. And we had 2 houses next to each other. We had 1 house on the other side of the park. And then you had to come all the way back to those other 3 haunted houses. And we said, are you guys going to do it? Oh my God, you guys did it. Multiple times. We also did the order of the 3, which was again 3 houses at the same time. From that point, we said, you know what? The house experience can grow, can even be even more. But this year, we actually wanted to do a little bit something different. We actually took you guys to the park. I'm going to give Robert a call out too for his photo. So yes, good job. We actually set up for the Legion specific. You had a certain task. Again, we could actually email you guys specifically what you had to do. When you got to a location, because you had your card, we could identify who you are by Legion. If you didn't have the Legion that was specific, you weren't verified, and you weren't allowed to partake in that task. So again, we could actually segment our audience down to the way that they enjoyed horror, the way that they were excited about it, and the way that they were playing. Here was a task, you had to go to a certain location at a certain time, you got a chance to actually take a photograph with your fellow Legionnaires. And what we found was that it was a big social activity. Not only the people that were part of the experience took the photo, but everybody else who wasn't their Legion watched them take the photo as a Legion. And again, it kept telling us that the social aspect of this event kept growing. And that, I'm going to come back to that. That's the video. I'm going to give them a big credit because we're going to put an unbelievable video together. But before we go about the end video, let me talk about this. Is that the social activity of this and the reason why this is so important, not only for you guys from a social interactive experience, but also from us as game designers, and I'll show you some of the results afterwards, is that what we realized is that Halloween events, haunted attractions are highly interactive. They're unbelievable. You don't go by yourself. You come with a group of people. This is something that we've known for many, many years. And the experience keeps growing. It becomes something you want to share with other people. With the social media, you take photographs, if you take videos of yourself being scared, you want to tell everybody about what you do. Well, we keep realizing that and go, how do we keep expanding the experience to kind of grow with you? A haunted event cannot really change as quickly as you experience it, but these type of interactions can. And that's what we've learned, is that they grow with you. They change day to day. So when you start your event at Halloween Horror Nights on the first night, it is different on the second night, it is different on the third night. As many nights as you come, it becomes as different as you want to make it. And we realize that is an unbelievable driver for us and for you guys for storytelling. It is something that you guys actually thrive on, to the point where we're here in May, talking about Halloween, and you guys are that much engaged too. But that's the thing, is that with the social media, with the aspects of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything else that's out there, you guys want to capture your moments and you want to tell everybody about them. Well, we as designers recognize that, and that's the entertainment that we've designed, is that it is something you can share. It changes, your experiences change, it's individual, it's personalized. Your experience that you have is different than your experience. And so when you share that online, it's not duplicated, it's not the same thing that somebody else is sharing. It gives you that sense of accomplishment, it gives you that sense of individuality, it gives you that sense of boasting and bragging, hey, I did this. And we know all you guys are like that because we are the same. And we said, we're the biggest fan of this event, so if we weren't here, we'd be sitting down there too. But that was it. That's why these big experiences are that important to not only the lifeblood of this industry, I think, the lifeblood of this event, Halloween Horror Nights, and I think in the next step of haunting, which is how do we still keep taking it to you, making it personal, basically playing on your exact fears, not just everybody's fears, but your fears. What do you like? What are you afraid of? How do you want to be scared? How can we do that for you? And at the same time, you walk away with going, that is unbelievable. How are they going to change it? How are they going to make it better next year? So as I start to come to the wrap up here, and get into some questions to ask some time, so I want to show this last video. The last video was the last night of the event. They said, Ricky did an unbelievable job of doing kind of a wrap up that talked about the event itself and the last night. The last night we said, let's take you on a little bit of a toy ride. Most of the places that we took you prior to this was fixed locations. Go to this location, get scanned, something happens. We said, well, are you guys crazy enough? We knew that you were. Would you follow us around the park? Kind of a twisted hide and seek. It kind of actually was inspired by, anybody watch the film, I can't remember the name of it. Actually, it was a film where we looked at something like this. But basically, is that we stuck out 3 people. It was myself, another person who's not here, Matt Miller, who you guys know, I'll give a shout out for him, and Ray back here. The 3 of us put hoods on. We had 3 separate scanners. One scanner was an active scanner, the 2 other ones were dummy scanners. And we started tweeting out, or basically on Facebook, telling people where we might be located. You had to find the person who had the scanner. Now what we depended on was all of you guys. Again, knowing that as much as we couldn't talk to you, you guys were talking to everybody already. And that social interaction is that when somebody was finding some information out, they were happily sharing it with everybody else. And what that was to find us. If you could locate us, tell all of your other friends that were playing to come get us at this location, you would actually get a reward for that. And it's a special reward, but I'll let the rest of it play out and you can watch it on here. Again, Loved it. Is your thing plugged in down there? You love that? You love that? I waited just in time for that. Look at that. That's fabulous. This ain't okay. Look, I know. See, it exactly works the same way. Well, if we can't show it. And puppets. Do you see some of yourself? Great website. So that was the final night. And again, much like the night we did back in 2005, it was a treat and reward for everybody who showed up, played the game, did some of the crazy things we asked them to do, and they got a cookie. And that's my kind of saying, that you get a treat for basically playing along. Back in, hey! But this is some of the results and the reasons why we do this. Online. Online is a task that we want to make sure people are engaged online, and that's all driven by what's called on-site. Basically, how long do you stay on-site? And last year, we had over 500,000 games played online alone, which translated to about 7,000 people that registered. 6 of them actually regular, and then the in-park was about 800. Frequent fear. When you come to our event, multiple nights that you come, you get a frequent fear pass, basically. It's a way that you can come multiple nights. Well, for us, the more nights you come, it's actually better for your experience, and it's also better for us, of course. Last year, out of the 800 people that showed up, on average, the people that played came at least 9 times. Here's some of the fun ones. A loss of this dude was also when you actually tagged or swiped the haunted house. We had one person scan 162 times. That one person also went through one haunted house, 31 times. Now that means, and she didn't go like to nothing else. She went to another house 23 times, 26 times. So again, unbelievable in the way of the drive and experience, but in the trying to get that high leaderboard or those number of badges to do this multiple times. And probably the big one too that we like is keeping you in the park. What we've also realized is that when you come multiple nights, you do what you love for the first hour or two. After that, you're kind of like, oh, do I stay? Do I want to do something? And what we've realized, again, since this group is very social and gets to know others within the group, they want stuff to do. It's maybe not the same thing, not going to a haunted house again, or maybe not going to see one of our shows called Bill and Ted. Is Chris here? No, I'm joking. I'll throw that one out. But no, it was to keep you involved, interactive, actually playing, and we could keep you there for 4 to 6 hours, which again is also very beneficial to you and for us. The thing that also takes us into what is next. You've been waiting for this. Will he shut up and say what's next? We're going to get into questions. But the thing that's also interesting is that what's the next evolution of this? Well, again, the things that we've learned. The things that we've learned is that you guys are highly competitive. There's no question about that. You really also are very loyal to your allegiance. At the same time, legendary truth is, like I said, as we saw by earlier today, is re-emerging. As again, to get back into the investigative of the strange paranormal activities that are here, that happen every year for some reason in the month of October. I don't know why, but it happens. And the different levels of horror. Well, again, horror is so big, cannot be claimed by one legion alone. So there's still 6 legions of horror out there that Legendary and Truth will investigate. Now, harking back to what we said, we never do anything that doesn't make sense or it doesn't have a reason. They're probably still wiring, why is Brian Beauregard up here? Well, let me do something. You want to have sex with him? Yeah, like nice hair. Is when he comes back, is that we realize that you guys have a passion for what you love. You want to continue to grow it. You want to make it better. Well, again, on the interactive storytelling, it's all about taking some of that home with you. We'll display these when we get done, but these are... This is this year's cookie. We also have ball caps. So we'll set up a table afterwards, once we get off of here, of all of the merchandise from buttons. Actually, no. But very soon, actually, most of this stuff will become available within the next few months at our online store. And the thing that I want to also kind of give you as a hint for the future, we got all this stuff. We got magnets. But as much as this actually is merchandising, it also takes a step farther, which is an interactive storytelling. The things that we loved about your guys' interactions last year, and we realized this as a piece moving forward, which is you guys not only have a loyalty, but you also want to display your loyalty. You know, you really want to wear your colors, if you want to call that. We also kind of said to ourselves, this is very similar to people that follow sports teams. You know what, if you're from the University of Florida, you're a Gator, and you wear your Gator colors when they're playing games. Well, when you guys are doing interactive gameplay in the park, you want to wear your Legion. And we realized that. Now, this is the first step of the interactive worlds of Legendary Truth. Legendary Truth is here for a long time. I won't say more than that, but that means too is that it's probably going to be a year-long campaign. So the storytelling to us, we've also realized is that for the months of horror, you know, the 3 months prior that we've done in the years past to the month pretty much afterwards the event was what we pretty much continued. But we realized that your guys' activity level, your interaction with your others, and horror does not end at January 1. So why does horror need to end at Halloween Horror Nights on January 1? It does not. So for us moving forward, we're going to actually interact with you guys, talk about stories of the past 23 years of unique horror that's been down here at Halloween Horror Nights, and actually investigate, review, talk about, you know, describe, have you guys investigate all of the strange hidden meanings of some of the stuff that all you guys maybe think you know, but I don't think you know. But that's what the evolution of moving forward is. It really is taking horror to you 24/7, year-round, in interactive activities that get you guys involved, get you excited, at the same time keep you engaged with understanding of what we did, what we're doing now, and possibly what we might do in the future. So with that, I'm going to open up some questions, but I'm going to give you some ground rules.